Well, I woke up to go get me a cold pop, and then I thought somebody was barbecuing. I said, oh, Lord Jesus, it's a fire. Then I ran out. I didn't grab no shoes or nothing, Jesus. I ran for my life. And then the smoke got me. I got bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Grand John never wants to follow. Get ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show. Today's date is October 6th. It is a Monday, so this is officially a Walmart Sam Walton TGIM Monday. Right, John Combest?
It is. It's probably our favorite day of the week, isn't it?
Thank God it's Monday. Okay, John, I have something I normally, and first let me give the intro. That's John Combest. He puts together this incredible website every single day of his life. For what, 24 years now? Do we hit the 24th anniversary now? Is it safe to say that, John?
I can share to you, Brad. Yes, we have eclipsed the anniversary of my website, Brad.
24 years. He's done this every single day. And despite what someone said to me recently, I said, can you believe that John Combest has done this for 24 years now? And they looked at me and they said,
what would you do with a brain if you had one?
I tell you, it just never gets
I can't hear that.
Well, that's because you don't want your ears blasted out anymore. So
yeah, who was that? Was that either Dorothy, God forbid, or was it Rodney King?
It was Dorothy. Okay, John and I have a partnership with this program. Would you pretty much agree that you and I sort of run things by each other before you do things, right?
Yeah, I would say. And you know, for example, I drop things on you immediately ahead of time so that you don't do a wacky jingle or an AI logo sometimes. But yeah, for the most part, we give each other a heads up.
Okay, we need to have an executive. We're going to just have to carve out 2 minutes right now. 2 minutes, and I don't care what you say. We need to carve out 2 minutes of time right now.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
We have to make time for that. Okay, John, you have to make an executive decision.
Okay.
Something has happened here that I have to give you the scoop on. And what's funny about it is it just doesn't stop. Okay, let's recap what happened on Friday. We were supposed to have Michael Burton on at originally 7:45. Then he contacted me and said, oh, I can't do 7:45. I can do 7:30. And I said, okay, fine. So when we called him at 7:30 on Friday, what happened, John? Not only did we call him once, we called him twice. What happened, John?
He did not answer his phone, Brad. He chose to flake on this interview.
Friday at 1:46 p.m. from Michael Burton. I apologize for not being available this morning. I was out with friends for birthday later than I normally stay out. That's why the time concerned me. If you still want me to have me on, I'm more than willing. Being the kind guy I am and totally being never kidding about anything and being totally transparent.
I love this.
I replied back on Friday afternoon, no prob, kind of funny. John and I were getting all coked up and went to the east side for some action last night. I just woke up in East St. Louis. Don't know where John is, but I do know he got in a fight with some dude in stilettos. Needless to say, we didn't do the show this morning, so no biggie. So on Saturday at 7:38 in the morning, John, not only did I get a phone call from Mr. Burton, Michael Burton, I was in the studio and didn't have my phone with me. I got a text that said, I don't have many Coke stories from the east side, but I just tried calling you. Well, my phone was in the other room. And then on Saturday at 5:57 p.m., he calls me and says, let me know if you'd like to reschedule a time for me to call in. Yesterday afternoon, Mr. Burton calls me again. And this time I answered the phone because I had the phone with me. And essentially, I'm not saying he was like sort of begging and pleading to be in the show, but he wanted to really be on the show. And
oh, that's nice. And remember what he said last week when you talked to him, Brad. Had he heard of the Brad and John show? Or was he pretending that, or was he saying he had never heard of the Brad and John show and somebody told me you guys are talking about me?
Right, that's what happened. So I said to him, John, you're not going to believe this story. You are not going to believe it. First off, he assumed that when he called in on Saturday at 7:30, which I guess he did. He sent me the text at 7:38. He said he was surprised I didn't answer the phone and put him on the air. I go, well, Mr. Burton.
What an idiot. Does he think we do a show on Saturday morning?
I said, I do a show on Saturday morning, but John's a Monday through Friday kind of guy. It's his corporate. You're
kidding. So, hold on. I got to interrupt, Brad. He didn't invest enough time to know that we do a Monday through Friday show, and he thought that a radio show would be on Saturday at the same time.
I guess not.
Is this the kind of people that we elect to the Missouri legislature?
He was sort of surprised that we, and see.
Good God, Brad. Okay, so go ahead.
I've said this before. If we're up to me, I'll just do 7 days a week. But John's a old corporate guy. He only works Monday through Friday.
Right, let's go. Come on.
Okay, so my conversation with him yesterday, I said, and as I'm doing right now, I said, I have to run this by John. I mean, we gave you your chance.
He missed it, Brad. And if you flake, here's a tip for Republicans and Democrats and libertarians and nonpartisan people. If you flake on an interview because you're hungover, you miss your shot. We dedicated a lot of mind share and a lot of time in the last 10 days to two Hoosiers who got in a fight at a campaign office in South St. Louis County.
In 2024.
And we gave both men, let me finish here, Brad.
Okay,
we
go
gave
ahead.
both men the opportunity and scheduled interviews with them. Jonathan Bosch, the dismissed former chair of the executive director of the St. Louis County Democratic Central Committee, flaked on an interview. Michael Burton, a state representative, flaked on an interview. We're moving on. We have a lot of fun stuff to do today, this week. We're done with that. If you're a Hoosier that you're too hungover to make a scheduled interview, we're done. We're just moving on, Brad. It was nice. Thanks, Michael, for the call, but we're done.
Okay, John, there's a little bit more to this story.
Well, we're halfway through A block, so let's wrap it up.
No, he says to me, something to the effect, well, I can't do tomorrow morning, which is today, which is Monday, because this was yesterday afternoon.
God.
So I said, okay. I said, I got to run this by John anyway, so we wouldn't do it tomorrow. And he says, I swear to God, this is funnier than I'll get out. The reason you know why the reason he can't do this morning, John?
Yeah.
He's with the Missouri Department of Conservation. He's trapping river otters.
Oh, wow. There we go. Well, and the funny thing is we didn't need an excuse, but on Saturday we got an excuse that he was hungover. And then we get a pre-excuse. Well, I'm so important. I'm with the Department of. We didn't ask, Michael. Stop giving a conditional excuse. Stop giving a conditional reason why you're not going to do something. This is men today. Instead of saying can't do it, can we do it Tuesday? Oh, well, I'm going to be trapped in river otter. Oh my goodness,
John.
Well, I hope you're wearing a beard wrap.
Well, part of the reason he's been sort of insisting all the conversation is because he wasn't too happy on your headline on our website about he flaked on the interview. He says,
well, he did flake that. It was funny because 5 days ago he pretended that he had no idea what our show was.
Right, and now he knows our show. So John.
Yeah, let's get into the top three, Brad. We're done with Michael Burton. And no, Brad, Michael Burton is not coming on the show tomorrow.
Okay.
He flaked on an interview, which is wildly disrespectful. And I don't believe he apologized. Maybe he apologized to you via text. But we're done, Brad. We're not gonna we're not gonna dedicate any more time to somebody that makes the kind of decisions that Michael Burton does. We're not spending any more time on that.
Okay, I want to approve something real quick, then we'll go right into the top three. Okay, I'm writing the text right now. Sorry, Michael. John said no. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But just an add on there. John said you missed your chance.
Okay.
And Brad, we don't need to over-explain. There's too much of that. We need to move on. It's 7:10 right now.
You missed your chance. Okay, hold on a minute. Okay, sent. Okay, now we bring in Casey Kasem. Casey, what's your... Oh, I already just said your name. Your name again, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And what do? We cop down the top three of all the different things on johncombest.com. And we start off with...
In third place...
A headline from St. Louis Public Radio over the weekend. Jessica Rogan. St. Louis Post-Dispatch ends Monday paper as subscriptions plummet. If you receive the print edition of the Monday St. Louis Post-Dispatch, if you're one of the few remaining subscribers, well, you're not going to get one on your doorstep or thrown wayward into your azaleas any longer. Starting November 3rd, the Monday edition of the Post-Dispatch, digital only. Executive editor Alan Achkar, not to be confused with Allah Akbar, announced the move in a note on the newspaper's website. And here's the key quote. The change to our Monday publication will help us focus our resources and time on the products readers are using the most. And our commitment to local news has not changed. Miss Rogan points out the declining subscription numbers for the Post-Dispatch. And the Sunday print edition, well, let's go to print. The weekly print subscription number decreased 91% in the last 19 years. So if you look at 2005 to 2024, decrease of 91%. And the Sunday print edition has lost readership. In 2005, it had 437,000 people subscribing. Brad, that is a huge number. But it dropped to 37,000 in 2024. So the Post-Dispatch is facing reality at a certain point. When you start losing money, when you start bleeding money, I should say, you got to cut somewhere. And frankly, Brad, who's going to really miss it?
John, can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, please do.
You know, our friends at St. Louis Public Radio they keep beating us over the head about how they have this, fact-based journalism. They're also serious journalists. They got like 34 people.
Yes, they're very serious.
Okay, what they need to do, the Post-Dispatch needs to take a lesson from the St. Louis Public Radio people. And maybe the St. Louis Public Radio can do like they did when the Corporation for Public Broadcasting was eliminated, the funding, where they went on like a marathon for like a week. Every 20 minutes, I'm Joe Smith. I'm a news person here at St. Louis Public Radio. And if you don't help us, we won't be able to tell you where all these pot-smoking places are in the Central West End. So I think what they need to do is St. Louis Public Radio should reach out to the Post-Dispatch people and do like a week-long radiothon saying, we're about ready to lose the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. They already don't do a Saturday or July 7th, July 4th of July edition. Now they're not going to do a Monday edition. We need your money right now. And we need all those testimonials from all the KWMU people telling us how dire circumstances are if we don't know the Post-Dispatch doing journalism on Monday. What do you think, John?
I think it's brilliant. And to follow up on an idea that you had last week, you were talking about traffic cameras.
Right.
And how you should incentivize people to catch people running red lights.
Right.
Motorists running red lights.
Right.
And then give them a hunk of the commission. Maybe, to follow up on your idea, I like the fundraising angle. Maybe you put Post-Dispatch employees on street corners. They can hawk the newspaper. And then when the light turns red, they can get their camera out. They can catch speeders. And then they have two streams of revenue.
All right, what John sent me over the weekend, he said, because we were going to talk about this, he said we can hire a bunch of really hot, female reporters for the Post-Dispatch, and they can do the topless car wash on the east side on Sundays to raise enough money to keep the publication open on Monday.
Yeah, that's why we were over there. But I think the problem with your story is you think the girls that major in journalism, you would want to see them topless.
Okay. I'm gonna move on.
Up a notch to number two.
Number two.
Oh, Jacob Barker has a banger today. Unregulated slot machines in Missouri produce a lot of cash and low payouts, trial shows. I didn't know this was happening in the state of Missouri. I was caught off guard on this element. There is a lawsuit going on. The makers of these so-called gray machines, they're not black and outlawed, and they're not white and pure. Boy, some race people would be mad with that description. But they're gray machines. They're somewhere in that gray area. Are they legal or not legal? The pioneers of the games in Missouri, Wildwood-based Torch Electronics, and its owners, Stephen and Sandra Miltenberger, are on trial in civil lawsuit in St. Louis federal court. And to sum up Jacob Barker's story, there's a company that puts together other bar games, like darts and other they're called TNT Amusements, and they do traditional bar games, billiards, darts, things like that. And this dude, TNT Amusements, says he started losing a ton of revenue when Torch Electronics came in with their games. I guess there's only so much money that you want to lose when you're smoking your cigs and drinking your beer at an establishment, or you're going in to get some gas and then you plop yourself down and want to play some games. So Mr. TNT, Mr. Jim Turntine, he says he's losing money, and it's all because of Torch. So what this trial is revealing, some of the payouts that Torch is making. And I guess the concept is, you know way more about this than I do, Brad. I guess the concept is, if you go to the Missouri Gaming Commission and you say, hey, we got these slot machines that we want to put here at Harris Casino or whatever, the Gaming Commission checks them out, checks out what the payout thing is, checks out what the rate is, and if the machines are actually working. And with these so-called gray machines, there's no sort of regulation of these. Lawmakers have been discussing this for years. And it seems like every year there's legislation to either approve some of these machines or ban these machines or somewhere in the middle. And it seems every year Torch Electronics manages to come out unscathed. So, as others have pointed out accurately, let's give credit to Scott Vaughn here, because he's pointed this out. Anytime you have a stalemate in legislation, it's good for Torch because they're able to just keep on keeping their games in these facilities. So we'll see what happens with this. The one promising thing, if you're against these machines, the one promising thing is that the judge has said in so many words, look, every other judge has punted on this and excused themselves and sidestepped this, but we need to have a ruling on this one way or another. So I think we're going to get it. And Barker's piece doesn't say when the trial is going to come to an end. I don't think he says when it's going to come to an end. But I think pretty soon we'll figure out, are these machines legal or not?
John, you don't know about this because this is a brand new story that just hasn't even hit the wire yet. But this morning, several Mexican drug cartels are going to file in East Central District for Missouri federal court a suit alleging the fact that they're losing money now that there's legal marijuana in the state of Missouri. So I don't know if you know.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. They don't like the competition.
Right. They don't like the competition. So they're just going to fight it out in court. So interesting thing that nobody will the guys who've signed up, who come in for testify, they're all wearing like hoodies and things like that with masks. And they claim they're wearing those masks because they are Fauci people. And they don't want to give.
Oh, I see.
They don't want to give anybody
a germ. Out for the greater good.
Right, greater good. So you know what? I find this whole thing funny. But I will say this one thing: I frequent one gas station I go to from time to time that has these machines. I never see anybody playing them. Never. So
yeah, you know what? Now that you mention it, Brad, I've never seen anyone playing them either. But I see them all over. But,
yes.
I mean, someone has to play them. Maybe you and I go at the wrong time.
Know.
Maybe we need to go like at midnight or something, you know?
But when you go to the casino, you sure see people playing those slot machines.
That's
you know what I'm
true,
saying?
Brad.
Okay, number one.
The number one.
As discussed on this show, inadvertently and then intentionally, Cori Bush is in the news. Now, 2 weeks ago, my morning co-host, Brad Hildebrand, opined, you know, Cori Bush has been at these Boeing things. Isn't that strange? And I was like, nah, whatever. And I made some silly joke about her having security. Boy, did Brad know what he was talking about.
I did.
Because as we discussed last Monday, the previous Friday, Cori Bush leaked that she was getting ready to run for Congress. Oh, she was getting her ducks in a row. And on Friday, this past Friday, October 3rd, Cori Bush made it official. She is running for U.S. Congress in a rematch against Wesley Bell. Now, as you and I discussed on Monday, the timing for Cori is important, and her timing is perfect. Because Wesley Bell, in the coming days before October 15th, Wesley will announce his fundraising haul. And as an incumbent, he's probably going to raise a pretty substantial amount of money. And if you're Cori, you want to, as I said last Monday, squat all over Wesley's story. That's uncouth of me to say, but she wants to squat and pee all over Wesley's story. So every story talking about what a great quarter Wesley Bell had in the D.C. publications, in the St. Louis publications, what should be a celebratory moment for Wesley and his campaign will be tainted by Cori Bush's announcement. A pretty good video she put together on Friday announcing her campaign. You know, it's inspirational. It's uplifting. She says that the red bricks in downtown St. Louis and North St. Louis represent the resiliency of the St. Louis community. It's a great watch. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. And Brad, if you notice a text message that I sent you before we went on the air, on our third segment today in C Block, around about 7:45, we're going to hear some quotes from Cori Bush. We might even hear some quotes from Taylor Swift.
John, can I mention something real quickly here on the Cori Bush
Yeah,
thing?
please do.
I've been chastised so many times when I say, John, do you know about this? I'm going to say,
what happened?
I'm going to say, John, of course you know about this.
Yeah, what happened, Brad?
I know you've seen the interview with your buddy Jason Rosenbaum and Cori, correct?
No, was that the top headline on johncombest.com Saturday morning?
What? You haven't seen it? I knew you've already seen it. So here's the thing we need to point out. The takeaway from that interview is Cori is a fighter. Now, what I think she's essentially saying is that Wesley Bell is not. And I think she's making a shot at his masculinity. I think that's what this is all about. Because
and I Brad, last night I watched a bit of her. I rewatched her concession speech, if you want to call it that, from last August. And boy, was that a check on his manhood. I mean, she was essentially saying, you don't have the guts to stand up and fight. You don't have the guts to ever come to Ferguson. I wish he does, but he won't. You know, so she was definitely questioning his masculinity.
And she also mentioned that his hair was too nice. That was the interesting part of it.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? He doesn't have the kind of manicure that she has, too. She has beautiful nails.
Right. And by the way, John's going to roll his eyes when I say this. I watched part of Knocking Down the House again where she's in there. And it's interesting to see her back in 2018. But
yeah, when she was long before she was actually elected to office, when she still had a lot of that activist spirit, when the D.C. world and AIPAC hadn't knocked her down, right?
Right. And she's actually very humble in that 2018 interview.
Oh, wow. My, how times change.
Yeah, it does. Okay, we have to take a break. We will be back